Okay guys, I've been asked multiple times to do a video on some of the artwork that I have. So that's what this video is going to do. I'm going to try to explain to you different pieces I have, whether it's an original, whether it's a print, any history that I am aware of, and values. I have no idea on most of it, honestly. So we're just going to run with descriptions if you don't mind. All right, the first one I'm going to start out with is this one. This one I picked up at a garage sale for $10. It's an original oil painting. It was painted in Japan. It has the artist's name, of course, signed down here. B. Sedeno. And it has the name of the model and the family, the gentleman that originally purchased it in Japan while he was stationed there. He then brought it back with him. Now there's a note on the back that says this was displayed at the Tokyo Museum of Modern Art at one point, although I have not been able to verify that, which would be a great provenance if we can verify it. So there is, like I say, there's a note on the back that the family wrote and attached it, so that it would have that sense of provenance with it. It's from the family of the guy that originally bought it. Now it does have one condition issue up on the top, which is a small hole that looks like that had tape or something put over it at some time. Not exactly sure, but still it's a beautiful painting. I love the look she has. It's just a timeless picture. I think she's very pensive and looking off in the distance. I think that's pretty cool. And hanging above that is an original watercolor. And I'm going to be honest, the artist is hidden under the mat. And I, at one point, did take this one apart and looked at the artist's name, but I failed to write it down for some reason. So, which at the time I did look, I did not find anything on the particular artist, but I just love the serenity of the scene with the little mill, the stream, and the trees. Just a beautiful little watercolor. It is under glass. You can see the glare, which is okay to frame watercolors with glass. Oil paintings, you do not want to have them behind glass. This particular one is a print. It's actually a postcard, and it is of the Jesus on the cross, but it's from a Native American artist, which is very unusual, which I really liked, so I included in that. Below that particular one, I have this piece. Johnny Long Soldier is a Native American artist out of South Dakota. Now, I used to live in Nebraska and worked at a store that sold art supplies, and he would stop in occasionally and buy art supplies from us. One time he brought his brother, who unfortunately I cannot remember what his brother's name was, but his brother actually drew this picture for me and gave it to me. So that was pretty cool. This is actually just a print. These were pretty common in these types of plastic frames for decorative items. Then below that, there are two original oil paintings. Both still lifes. This one is onion and cabbage, and this one is artichoke and asparagus. These are by Nathan Ambutter, a illustrator artist at the 1900s. He died, I believe, in 1940s. I had another piece of his, which I sold to a subscriber actually several years ago. Love his work. Yeah. So, like I say, these are a little smaller than what I thought they were when I bought them. I bought them at an online auction, and I paid, I believe, like $40 each for them. But they're definitely great quality pieces. Now, above them are three abstract paintings. They're oil paintings. And these are by McGinnis. And he was a fairly well-known artist in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. He was a realist landscaper but he also started experimenting in abstract. So these are actually, I believe, studies that he did. There's 3 of them, and they're all signed, and I framed them in these, which cuts off the very top of these. So they're not the ideal frames for them, but they're an odd size, so they really need to be custom framed at some point. But I also have, on the back of them, I attach any history that I have with them, at least where I purchased them and when I purchased them and all that. So I try to keep as much providence as I can with them. This next one, to me, I love this piece of artwork. Sorry for the glare of the light. It's a print, lithograph, I believe. Not been able to find anything about the artist. It's very haunting in that the figures have no faces. They're just implied that they have faces. It's kind of hard to see on the camera, especially with the light reflecting in the back. And I love the frame on this piece as well. I know nothing about it. It does have a number in this corner, and then the artist signature over here, which I've really not been able to decipher or find, but I really like that one. And here's another one of these just contemporary pieces behind glass, just a decorative home decor piece. This particular piece down here is actually the Wailing Wall. You know what, I'm going to turn this lamp on to give us a little more light. This is an Israeli artist, a painting of the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem, with some gentlemen praying in front of it. It's an original oil painting. So that one I found at the bins, Goodwill outlet store. This is one of my favorite pieces. It's actually a plaster relief. I believe that it was probably at a church at some point, built into a cabinet, because it does have, I'll see if you can see it. If you look up here, it has these little holes that are star-shaped where light could reflect through. So it was probably backlit at some point. But it's a scene of the crucifixion in 3D relief with a light wash over the top of it for coloring. I don't know, it's just, I love that. This is a piece by Bossaran. He was very famous for his religious prints at the early 1900s. This is one of Jesus sitting on the stool in the workshop. And this is a very common print, although this one is a larger size than what you usually find of these. And many times this print was done just with his face. They cut his body off. It was just his face. You'll see that reflective face, but this is a full body, a version of this print. And sometimes I make notes and put it on there so I don't forget. This is another one. I've not been able to identify the artist on this, but this is another one of Mary and Jesus, and you can typically tell that because they'll have halos over the head like these two do. Oops, I'm gonna knock something over. So yeah, this actually is my grandparents, great-grandparents' homestead house, and that's my great-great-grandparents and my great-grandmother in that picture. It's just a copy of a photo, actually. And then this one down here is by Mary Proctor. She is still a living artist from Florida. She is well known within the African American community for her artwork. She actually runs a thrift store, and I can't remember the town now. But anyway, she has become known as an artist because she reuses materials. Like in this case, it's rocks and that she used for the clothing of the individual on this. That's also religious art. She feels this is what God has called her to do, to communicate his word through art. So she creates it. And this particular picture on the back has all of her information on it as well. So there's a good provenance there. Well, I don't know about the provenance, but at least the history of her. And I picked that up at the bins as well. Here's another print, religious print. This is Jesus in front of the teachers at the temple, discussing scriptures. Again, I do not know who this artist is off the top of my head. As you can tell, I like religious art, particularly early 1900s. This is a, it's actually a card, you know, like you would send someone, but it's an original print, not a print, but a, like a block print, litho type, original signed. It's really a cool card. Someone framed it at some point, and because it has old cars, which I love, I don't even remember where I found it, but I bought that. This is another original watercolor of an old car by a local artist here in Minnesota. I have had several of his pieces. So, yeah, just love these old cars. That's a print of an old Ford Model T. And that is a souvenir piece of Delano, Minnesota, where my wife and I used to live, and she was born and raised. Okay, now I'm going to see if I can do a couple more on this side of the room, and then I'll try another one. This particular piece here is a postcard. This postcard was, the original painting is by an artist called Audrey Towater. She is a Nebraska artist. She was the first woman artist, interesting fact, to be commissioned to paint Wall Street. She had a very loose, quick style. I also had the honor of meeting her, and she's a fabulous person, just full of life and fun, and you can just tell that from her paintings. You know, it's very, she was a self-taught artist, but she just had, you can just feel a lot of emotions in her paintings. But this postcard on the back is actually inscribed to me. She autographed it and signed it and gave it to me, which is really sweet. So that has some great sentimental value to me. All right, now we're going to go over to this side to the two most valuable to me pieces, because these are two landscape paintings. They're actually paint by numbers, believe it or not, and they were done by my grandmother, probably in the 70s, 1970s. So those have great sentimental value. I love them, and I have them hanging up there. Then over here, this is another original piece. I believe this to be an pen and ink type of print. It's signed, and it's entitled A Study in Shadows. So you can see that it is emphasizing the shadowed areas, which is really kind of cool. I'm going to skip this one for a moment. I'm going to come over here to the goat. This is a print. It is a signed print by an artist. It was just kind of a fun little thing. My father-in-law loves goats, so it just reminds me of him. Now, this particular piece is by, oh, why am I suddenly forgetting this artist's name? Will Gollum. He is still alive, and I've been in correspondence with him with regard to this piece. It's titled on the back, and it's entitled Gould. He was a big fan of, or is a big fan of, Glenn Gould, the concert pianist. So he did two of these paintings. One is called Glenn Gould, and one is just called Gould, to honor him. A picture of Glenn is in this collage somewhere. And Will actually has two different styles. This is his style that is what's called his Southwest style, when he was down in Santa Fe, New Mexico, producing artwork, which is very much in this style. He also had a more realism style, which was done prior to this, and I believe he has come back to a certain degree at this point. But I did correspond with him with regard to this piece, which I've attached the correspondence to the back of this piece of artwork. Again, number one, to prove its authenticity, and he actually tracks his artwork. So he loves it when people contact him and let them know who has them and how they acquired them and all that kind of stuff. So that's pretty cool. Sorry about my little finger. And then, okay, I'm going to talk about two other pieces. This is my little storage hutch, which is just here because I'm trying to get rid of it, but it's in my way. Okay, so there's this particular piece of pottery. It is a wood-fired piece in the ground by a local artist. She actually was a student in high school when she made this piece, and she just did fabulous work. And I happened to go to her mother's garage sale where she was selling off some of her artwork. I was like, okay. So I bought this piece and you know, wrote down what she told me about it and stuff. So who knows, this person might someday be a very famous artist, because I think she's on her way to becoming one. And then nice blue bowl. But then this bottom pot, I have no idea who created this, but I absolutely love it. It's definitely in the Art Deco style. Age-wise, the history I got is this came from a person's great aunt. So is it from the 1930s? Possibly. It's got felt on the bottom, so you can't really tell if it's, you know, many times if you look at the bottom of a piece, you'll see wear along the bottom, so you can tell if it's been moved in and out or for dusting and all that kind of stuff or not. This one I cannot tell that because, sorry about that, because it's got the felt on the bottom. It's in beautiful condition. The unusual part is the fact that it's got glass on both sides of the vase. I've never seen glass inserted into a ceramic piece. It is signed on the bottom. I cannot decipher the signature. So at this point, I just enjoy it, and it is the piece I have spent the most on any piece in my life, which was $100 I paid for that, as far as for an art piece. But I used my Christmas money one year to buy it. I just loved it. So anyway, that is a big recap of some of my artwork, and at least the stuff I have here in my office. Hope you enjoyed.